Humans. We are living in some of the craziest times that this human lineage has ever known. Okay, what does that mean? Give me some concrete examples of this. Alright, concrete examples. Let's go. So this tumult, this chaos, it's all pervasive. It finds its way into multiple domains of modern life. One domain, for example, is work. So the modern corporate work environment, let's say. Let's go back to the old corporate work environment where, office jobs first became a thing. The workload that was assigned to each individual was actually doable by that one individual, in the sense that that single individual's capacity to work was sufficient to get this workload done week on week, month on month, year on year. So that was maybe before the invention of the phone and direct instant messaging. They still had to send letters and stuff, and everything was still pretty slow. Back then, one of the heuristics of old in this office work environment when it first became a thing would have been, if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed by the work and you're maybe just feeling a bit down and you went to somebody for advice about what to do or how to think about this, they may have just said, just get on with it. And that would have been valid advice, that would have been useful, because you'd have just been like, yeah, I just need to get on with this because I can just do this. But that's an example of a heuristic of old, a rule of thumb of old, that when applied in the modern context or spoken to you in the modern context is foolish. So it's a sage piece of advice in the old times, but nowadays it's foolish because of the amount of change that has occurred in the intervening period between then and now. Because the workload in the modern corporate environment is such that the individual's capacity to work is insufficient to get it done day on day, week on week, month on month, year on year. So to just get on with it is a foolish piece of advice, and I think we all know this as individuals. I can't just get on with it, and it's not because I don't want to be able to just get on with it, it's actually because nobody can just get on with this. This is ludicrous, this is bonkers. So that's an example of a domain, the corporate office work environment, where the chaos of our times is fairly concrete. You can just point to that, that's fairly obvious. Yeah, another example of concrete example of where hyper-novelty, in other words, the rate of change outstripping we humans' ability to adapt to and keep up with that rate of change. Another domain where hyper-novelty is fairly prescient, it's fairly heavily felt, is in the different worldviews of, let's just call them, humans of the city. So in a city, humans don't really interact with one another in the same way that humans of old in a very ancestral environment like the tribe would have interacted. So in the city, people aren't daily speaking to one another face to face and getting a fairly broad understanding of where the whole city is at. Whereas in an ancestral environment, the tribe will have interacted face to face, and you may have even interacted with the vast majority of people face to face, at least across a time span of like a month. And you will have been able to have built a picture based on the feedback and the interactions of your tribal people. You'd have been able to build a picture, a general picture of the state and where the state of the tribe and where the tribe is at this current moment. Whereas in the city, the humans of the city do not share the same worldview in that sense of the tribal people in their tribe, in their tribal ancestral environment. The cities of the human, or the humans of the city, each carry with themselves a highly personalized, tailored worldview, tailored to them personally. And this is facilitated, of course, by phones, by technology, and social media in particular, where your feed, your social media feed, is your feedback, and you're interacting with this. And so you, because you're a human, with this same ancestral impulse to sort of get an idea of what's going on through feedback and interaction, we moderns have the same hardware of old, as in physical hardware, psychological hardware, but now are interacting with a hyper novel, like a very new technology, which is informing our worldview, which would have been informed in the past by people, but now is by the social media platforms, yeah, through the phone. So we think that that is reality, in the same way that the tribespeople of the past will have correctly thought that the reality based on the feedback from face-to-face interaction is the reality. So now we have this people, the humans of the city, with incompatible worldviews because their feed is personalized to them, so it's bound to be incompatible because every human is extremely unique. And so, you know, even in their interaction with these things, that they get a unique worldview. So they can't interact, they can't actually speak to one another, despite sharing the same language. You know, they speak the English language or whatever language it happens to be in their city. They can't actually converse, so they're not in the same world. That's crazy. This is unprecedented. This is unheard of in terms of sort of human history, where we're currently at in human history. So even just recognizing those concrete examples of where hyper-novelty, and understanding the term hyper-novelty, of where hyper-novelty is affecting we humans who have ancestral hardware carried into this extremely modern, confusing environment. Even that can help to, I don't know, relieve the individual of certain ambiguous and vague feelings of discomfort about this craziness. So that's important, because there will be an impulse with this this is important. Yeah. So this is all extremely important, because now those are just examples of how we live in chaotic times. I don't think that was necessary, those concrete examples, but I actually do think they were necessary, because people say we live in these crazy times, and I'm like, how? How's this crazy? I want to know exactly how this is crazy. So hopefully that helps. But now, to the meat of the matter. We're blessed to live in these turbulent times, because now we have the opportunity to develop ourselves in terms of our consciousness and creativity as far as that can go. We are obligated in these crazy times to do exactly that. By consciousness, all I mean is raising our sort of awareness of of where we are, our time and place in human history, and seeing all of the potentialities before us. Because we as humans of the future, let's say, relatively young humans, we have seen the world explode before our very eyes. And if we haven't seen it, if we weren't born, we were born into then a world that had exploded before the eyes of the humans in the generation before us. And so what we were born into was a chaotic world where there are like innumerable potentialities on the horizon. They're all vying for our attention and our focus, and we are bound to sort of settle into a groove going into the future And that groove better be a good groove, because, you know, there's like dictatorship groove, there's continued chaos groove, there's like catastrophic end of the world groove. These are the ones we want to avoid. So we have to raise our consciousness as individuals to be able to see all of those potentialities vying for our attention, and to be able to discriminate against the terrible ones, distinguish which one is a good one, which one is a bad one, and synthesize a modern guiding narrative that can show us the right way. How do we do this? Creative expression, your own unique creative expression, is essential, and multiple different perspectives on what we see. Okay, why is creative expression important? Because all of these are just potentialities. Nobody has ever seen these before. There's like that unprecedented quality to them. To reduce them merely to the spoken or written word, like language, given the crudeness of language, is to miss an awful lot of the picture. Because language can only speak to so much of what we see. We need many different forms of creative expression, not just language, such as like dance, painting, music, all of which will contribute to a deeper understanding of the innumerable potentialities that we see before us, and they will inform how we're supposed to see this and what is the best direction to go in. Because of how unprecedented all of these potentialities are, that is what we require. We need those many different perspectives from the many different creative media, you know, like the canvas for painting, the dance floor for dancing, the stage for music, the stage for theatre, yes, essential. And even then, you know, the written word, paper, digital paper, whatever. Amalgamate all of these different perspectives on the innumerable potentialities vying for our attention. With all of those perspectives, we can synthesize a guiding narrative that can help us find that groove that will be the most beneficial for humans of the future, going forward indefinitely in time. Yeah, that's the goal. So that's why we're blessed to be living in these tumultuous times. We have to raise our consciousness, and we have to become as creative as possible. What an opportunity. What an opportunity.